Hey peeps, this is Follygon here with your daily dose of ZBrush and work motivation. In this video, I'll be sculpting a demon hunter from World of Warcraft. Please forgive my lack of knowledge about the race or WoW in general. I've only really played a free account, maybe up to like level 15 or 20 or whatever the cap is. So I don't really know a lot about the series other than my slight Hearthstone obsession, which we won't get into. So this character that I'm working on right now is from a concept by a person by the name of, I believe, Una In. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but I found the concept on ArtStation. There's a link to their work down in the description. Go check that stuff out. So instead of doing what I do with most of my videos, which is kind of showing you the entire process from beginning to end, I skipped the beginning portion of this character just because it's a lot of what you've already seen in the previous videos, and I wanted to more focus on kind of like the middle portion of the sculpt to completion. So we're kind of starting about, I'd say maybe 15-20% of the way in here, and then from here I'm just kind of painting the eyes, messing with the face a little bit more, and then blocking out the rest of the shapes. So at this point, most of the head is kind of already blocked in. You saw me messing with the lips a little bit there as the video actually started playing. But for the most part, I'm just kind of blocking in the rest of these shapes. So getting the eyelids correct, at least for the main shape that I'm looking for. And I'll come back and mess with these more as I'm going through. But I'm just trying to make sure that I get all those parts in there. So like the eyebrows, I just kind of throw in a tube real quick. And I'm doing the same thing for the eyelash right here. I'm doing a little different kind of process for the eyelid than what I normally do. I normally do a tube and then kind of like stretch it out towards the end and maybe take a snake hook brush to it, or add some separate geometry on it instead. But in this case, I'm actually just adding some edge loops around that front edge and then just grabbing all those and pulling them out to kind of get this like really nice, clean, sharp, I'm not really sure what you would call this shape, but it's like a creased edge coming over the eyelid to create like a really nice single large lash that contours around the eye. In my opinion, a character doesn't like really come alive until you put the hair on the character. I've seen some amazing sculpts of just like bald people that blow my mind, blow my freaking gourd. But in this case, like, or at least for my sculpts, maybe I'm just a crappy sculptor, crappy artist, which a lot of people could argue very well. But you know, for me, a character doesn't really come alive until you put the hair on it. The shape that you see me box modeling here really quick, I'm using a combination of sculpting as well as box modeling towards the end, creasing some edges, adding some edge loops, moving some verts around to create a specific shape. This shape that I'm creating, as you see here, I'll be drawing it out on my surface. And actually what I'm doing here is I'm making an insert mesh out of this mesh that I just made, this box modeled piece. And then from there, I'm making it an insert mesh and adding it to a curve. So I'm going into my curve menu, turning the curve mode on, messing with a few options in there, like some size stuff and a couple other options. And then I'm able to kind of control this shape and get it to kind of taper down and get this really neat horn that you're looking at right here. So that's something to maybe mess with for yourself in the future if you've never done that before. There's a lot of great tutorials online, especially over on Z Classroom, which if you haven't checked out, they have a ton of awesome videos over there for beginners as well as intermediate users, as well as a little bit of advanced stuff. But definitely go check out that stuff if you haven't done that yet. So of course, the most important part of every character, minus the hair, sub the hair, are the boobs. Now the boobs are so very important because, you know, that's what you're all looking at. That's why you clicked on this thumbnail. That's why you're here for this video. Unfortunately for you, I spend like 5 minutes. I throw some spheres on the body and pull a teardrop shape up into the chest. So that's about the extent of it. That's boobs for you guys. That's what it is. So moving on to a little bit of paint. just kind of blocking out the shapes of the ears. I leave the ears pretty simple throughout the entire sculpt. I actually leave this entire character, at this point you've already seen the finished character, I leave it pretty sketchily, pretty rough. I don't really do a ton of stuff to it. So you see the hand later on, and one of the last things that I do is finish sculpting the hand, and I leave it pretty rough. I don't like finish it. I don't add like a ton of detail, a ton of work into it, because I'm looking for those like primary forms, some secondary shapes as well, but it's not really worth my time for a speed sculpt, or at least for kind of a study or any of these things to be going into that much detail. One of the reasons that is because one, I want to get on to the next thing as quick as possible. These videos can take a little while to make occasionally. But second, most of your learning when you're studying comes in that kind of first 60% of your sculpt, first 60% of your drawing. This kind of holds true to most art. When you're sculpting, all the blocking in, the primary forms, most of the secondary shapes that you're creating, those are what are really going to kind of affect your learning and knowledge of those things, and kind of beat them into yourself to get a good foundation of this knowledge more than anything else. So that last kind of 40% of your sculpt, getting in the details, all that stuff is easy. Like that's the easy part, and that might sound like the fun stuff, and maybe it is. I definitely enjoy doing a lot of that stuff, but that first 60%, the hard part, which some of which I didn't show you in this sculpt, the blocking out phase, getting all those shapes and proportions down, that's the difficult part. That's where you're gonna do the most learning. So I kind of try to carry that through in this sculpt as well, you know? I'm not trying to absolutely get every muscle in there. I'm not trying to super detail this character out. I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to progress, I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to, you know, get these primary, secondary forms in and to look good, which is not an easy thing, especially for me. But hey, that's kind of my thought process there. And if you're looking to improve, this is kind of the line of thinking that I would recommend for you and your work. And the body that I'm actually using in this sculpt comes from a previous study that I did, and I did that study kind of using the same tactics and processes that I mentioned in my stylized female face tutorial. And there's a link to that down in the description if you want to check out that series. But I essentially reference a lot of images, a lot of anatomy stuff, as well as using the Ryan Kingsline mesh that is built into ZBrush. And I use that as a reference to kind of build around and sculpt around, just to get basic proportions, muscle placement, bone placement, as well as just kind of a good sanity check to make sure you're not like, you know, checking your 2D and 3D references and jumping back and forth and just being completely bewildered by what's happening underneath the skin. So moving on real quick, I was just taking a snake hook to the hair as well as some clay tubes, some move brush, just trying to block in those shapes. I don't really take it too far. I don't put a ton of texture on it, anything like that like I've done in the past. From there I add some quick paint to the horns, which you saw me do, and go directly into Transpose Master so that I can start posing the character, try to figure out where I want it, how I want everything positioned. And I believe from here I start taking a look at the eyes, because the eyes aren't exactly what I want. So, you know, I've talked about how you can shade and paint the pink or red of the eye on the bottom, but I don't like to do that typically until I position the eyes. So I mess with these a little bit, mess with painting them a little bit, but you'll see me come back to them later because I'm not happy with them and the way they look right now. So I do a little stuff that's post in Photoshop, as well as returning to the eyes later. So you see me messing with them a bit here. I can't figure out what I want to do. I kind of want them to have like this blind look to them, so like very white, very kind of hollow, but I also want them to have this glowing effect, which I end up doing in Photoshop later. But just messing more with paint, trying to figure out what I want to do with this face. I end up just doing something really simple and putting a curved tube that tapers down in the corner of the eye for the bottom lash there. Just something really simple to give it a little bit more definition. From here, I reattach the arm back to the body and dynamesh those two pieces together, and then I kind of start figuring out like how I want to set up my render. How do I want this character to be positioned? So do I want to just cut off the lower portion of the body? Do I want to kind of taper it down? How am I going to end up doing this? Because I'm obviously not finishing the character, and it looks a little awkward the way it's just kind of cut off. Going back to those eyes like I was talking about before, trying to fix that paint a little bit, I try to open up the eyes a bit more, and when I do that, some of the paint is showing through that I have underneath, so you'll see me go back and again fix that little area there. I shortened the arm, and I'm gonna start going back to the arm here in a second, as well as that hand that is open, and you'll see me doing some sculpting on that. Hands are tricky, I'm not gonna lie. Hands are difficult to sculpt, but lucky for you, lucky for me at least, I have two hands always right in front of me that I can reference. So you can look up as much reference for images as you want, but nothing is going to top what you got right in front of you. And that's true for a lot of stuff. I quite often forget that, hey, I can just go look in the mirror. You know, I can't find a reference for a specific thing, like, oh, collarbones or something like that. Dude, just go look in the mirror and figure it out that way. You got all the angles that you need, all the reference that you need right there. Again, hands are difficult, but you got that reference right in front of you. So try and mess with them, maybe try and sculpt your own hand. I've sculpted a lot of hands in my day, and I'm not really a fan of sculpting hands, at least not right now. In this particular moment, I did not want to spend a ton of time on this hand. So I just kind of block out the knuckles, block out the basic shapes and proportions. Again, going back to that talk of the 60-40%, where you're gonna learn the most and gain the most from that first 60%. So kind of focus on that area. And finishing it all up with the turntable here, guys. That's gonna do it for us. And don't forget, new videos will be uploaded every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so be on the lookout for those. Go ahead and click that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And today's question before I go, what character in the Blizzard universe would you like to see me sculpt next? Hey, and with that, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, hope you learned something new, and I will see you guys next time.